Okay, hello and welcome to the Honey Tea Podcast, where we talk all things the tea with a little bit of honey. I feel like it has been forever since I've recorded, and I'm crooked. Hang on, there we go. So, crooked to anyone who might be watching on the YouTube channel. Um, if you are not, my handle is Melissa Salazar Yoga, Melissa Salazar Yoga. All one word, Melissa Salazar Yoga. There's a picture of me doing some yoga on there. So there's a few videos from the podcast. There's also some other videos. I didn't start like a whole new channel. So sorry, I'm trying to get this straightened out. I feel like my light in my dining room is going dim. Maybe it's just me. I'm sure it's me. I feel like, yeah, every time I move this, that's what it is. Okay, so we'll stop moving it. We'll sit still. I'm going to, well, first, I wanted to say thank you to everyone who has listened, who is listening, who has continued to listen. Um, Thank you. And I apologize because I don't know if it's any good at all. I'm just trying to stay consistent with it and continue to record each week. It helps me a lot. So that's really why I'm doing it. If it helps you, great. But I just wanted to say thank you. And I'm sorry all at once. Um, Also, apologies if I'm sniffling or if I sound really nasal or if I sneeze a lot. My allergies have been kicking my ass the past few days. So I think I'm going to take some allergy medication tonight before I go to bed. So when I wake up, it'll be in full effect because that's when the worst time of day is for me, is when I wake up in the morning. Um, yeah, so I feel like it's been so long. I think it's been 2 weeks since I recorded. Because I recorded early. So whenever I record early, um, it always is longer that I've actually sat down. So we are in July 20th. We're almost to the end of July, which is crazy. I'm already looking at school supply lists and trying to squeeze in those last little trips or fun things that we want to do before summer is over. I have a little person, so just trying to make those memories with him. It is such a fun age. He's 9 years old. So the older children, they kind of have their own lives. My oldest, my son, he'll still hang out with me quite a bit. But my daughter certainly has curated her own life and has her own friends, and that's perfectly normal. Um, But for the 9-year-old, he still likes me and likes to hang out with me and thinks I have good ideas. So trying to get in some last minute excursions. If anyone's ever been to Benji's, it's a drive-in movie. My mom used to take me to a drive-in movie theater that was close to our house. It wasn't Benji's, but that's still up and running. So we went, I think 2 summers ago. We were doing a summer bucket list, and he said, um, that would be something he was interested in. I had told him about it. He didn't know anything about a drive-in movie, and I told him how fun it is. My mom would put me in my PJs in the back of the station wagon that was like, a block long, and I'd have all my snacks, and it was a lot of fun. So we went 2 summers ago, and then this past Halloween they did um, a big thing where kids could come dressed up, and then they did like a Halloween themed movie appropriate for kids afterwards, but you could walk around to the backs of the cars. They had the cars decorated and the kids could trick or treat. So it was a lot of fun. Um, so that's something super fun, inexpensive, local if you are near Essex. Um, so maybe we'll try and do that. Let's see what has been going on. So the last time I recorded, I think I recorded before we left North Carolina, and the two older kids had left and headed back to Maryland. My youngest and I took another couple of days and we went over to Knoxville, Tennessee to visit my niece and her family. I'd never met their youngest child, so it was a real nice treat. Um, her babies, I think, are like 5 and 3, so they're little. Um, Being in the house was really fun because it's been so long since I've had small people. So being in the house, like this constant level of energy that is just nonstop until the children go to bed, unless they zone out for 10 minutes watching a show or something. So it was just really fun. The next day, the little people did go to preschool during the day. So my niece and her husband, their names are Liz and Miles. Um, and my son and I went to Louisiana State University Botanical Gardens. Yes, that's correct. And it was blazing hot. It was disrespectfully hot. I was melting in my own skin. However, the botanical gardens were amazing, and it was really nice. Got a few photos there, so it was cool to visit with some family. We talked a little bit about the area that they bought a house in and how inexpensive it is. So kind of got the hamster on the wheel, looking to the future that Knoxville or even North Carolina in certain areas may be something to look into, to move or perhaps buy a property that I could go and visit, get out of town, or my kids could go and visit and get out of town. Hang on, I just got to see something here. Okay, I'm going to pause and I'm going to move this up. I'm going to move that right there. I'm going to move this right here. Hold on. Bear with me, guys. I'm doing... All right. There we go. Cool. All right. I think we're good. Anyone that's listened to any previous episodes, I have this issue with the platform that I record on where it always kind of lags and doesn't pick up on the next segment when I've recorded out of that segment. So I was just trying to preemptively be proactive there. So we got home. I'm pretty much unpacked. There's still a couple of bags that I haven't unpacked, but the house is still neat and tidy, so it's not too much clutter. I think the biggest T is, or the biggest like bullshit, basically, my life is so drama free these days. So the tea, the bullshit, the challenge, whatever you want to call it. Oh, my little nose is so itchy. Has been my work. I worked at a restaurant in Howard County for 10 years, a little over 10 years. And when they let me go, I've been bouncing around ever since, trying to find something that parallels the income that I was getting there. So I'd worked my way up and I was let go, definitely on some bullshit. And it took me a while to kind of even get to a point where in my heart I was okay with that person. I never went back to the restaurant and I wasn't seeing this person that fired me on a daily basis, but it got under my skin because it was done in a very unprofessional way. The reason was unprofessional, but I needed to work through that. So I've been bouncing around since that was not this past fall, but the one prior. Is that right? No, it was this time last year. So a year ago, I was let go. So for 12 months, I'm just kind of, trying to figure it out. And the lights haven't been turned off yet, but it's scary when you are not earning enough, or when you start at a new job and you're low man on the totem pole. Not everyone is received well when they come into a new position, when into a new job. Not even like the seniority thing, but just not everyone is happy that you're there. So I had wanted to work at this restaurant close to my house since I moved to Carroll County 9 years ago. It's owned by a gentleman who owns pretty much most of Westminster. So he has two restaurants, a lot of real estate, pretty successful, and both restaurants have a great reputation. So I'm like trying to get in there, trying to get in there. And the biggest challenge through, I think I've been at 3 restaurants in 12 months, which isn't terribly out of the ordinary for me, but usually I would keep like 2 and just do 2 part-times on the best shifts. I left all 3 because the money was not there. So I finally, after, a handful of times of applying to this place, someone puts in a good word for me. They know someone that bartends there. So I get in and I'm like, sweet, I'm here. It's 2 minutes from my house. Amazing. The people are great. The kitchen is great. The clientele is great. Everything's great, except there's not enough volume. So I'm not even hitting a quarter of what I need to be hitting financially. So I try and stick it out, and it's just, it gets to the point where I can't do this anymore. So a little chain of events led to my applying to a company that owns a lot of restaurants in downtown Baltimore Harbor East. And the day after I applied, I was pleasantly surprised. I got a phone call directly from one of the GMs, and I've been there for 3 weeks now, and I am definitely hitting what I need to be hitting. My presence is well received. I feel like mostly my experience can make a difference. I can positively contribute to this company. It's not just about I'm here with my hand out and give me as much money, because it's not a give, it's an earn. So I've definitely earned my stripes in the restaurant industry, but now being able to apply that in a positive way to contribute back to a company that is taking really good care of me. So super excited to be there. My training is finished. I started this week. So today was my second official day on the floor. But last Saturday night, I was still, quote, training, and we had like 200 people walk into the bar. I'm not exaggerating. And we got our asses handed to us. So the manager at the end of that shift was pretty understanding. And he was like, I know you're still training. You're still getting a cut of the tips, that was divided evenly. So that was pretty awesome. Good looking out to that guy. The So that's been kind of like the challenge, and I try to stay positive, but as being, the head of household, and especially still responsible for a 9-year-old and all of the bills, kind of scary sometimes when you're not exactly sure how it's all going to go. Um, there were moments, there were times where I was really nervous. And I think, especially in this day and age, with everything, gas and food and the cost of living increasing, but a lot of people that have been in the same wheelhouse or the same job, your rate of pay is not increasing. It's very challenging. And I think a lot of us are just a few paychecks away from being in a really bad spot. So I am very, very grateful to be where I am. And that shows, when I'm showing up for work. The sweetness, the absolute, I wasn't expecting, this honey over all of this, is where I am working, Harbor East, if anyone's familiar with Baltimore City, is a new concept. I don't know exactly when it started to be built up. I don't know the exact year, but 25 years ago, I lived in the city. I lived in Fells Point, and I got my first waitressing job in Little Italy. So Harbor East is practically adjacent to Little Italy. So when I go to work, I park in Little Italy and I walk past places where I used to walk to and from work all the time when I lived in the city. And I wasn't even a mother yet. So to be in this position and to see it all come full circle and to see how successful and kind and funny and independent my two older children are now, and then being back down there is really, really wild. I don't feel old enough to have adult children, but they're here and they're adults. So it just adds another layer of sweetness to having had another child, still being in the middle of raising him. And, there's a lot of goodness coming from where I am right now. So both of my older children, I have journals that I started for them. I have one for my little person too, but if anyone who has multiple children, by the time you get to the third, they're lucky if they brush their teeth and have on a clean shirt. So the two older ones, I started journals for them when they were born. Also for my third, I did not write nearly as much in my third child's journal, and I have zero guilt about it. Um, but the steps that I sat on when I wrote my first entry to my firstborn in his journal, I walk by every day on the way to work. So it is a very sweet reminder of just continuing to put one foot in front of the other, always keeping your head up as best you can, not getting down on yourself when you're human, when you are going through it. Just don't give up. Just don't give up, knowing that if you really honestly, from your heart of hearts, keep trying your very best, you are going to be okay. And it's a cycle. I don't expect to be in a good spot. I don't need to be in the lowest of spots, but it's just a cycle. This too shall pass, and that goes for good and that goes for bad. So, wanted to share a little bit about that. Also, not having a co host, I had the idea to start and focus on um, whether it's from a book I've read or something I've researched or Googled, but trying to bring some awareness to other people, primarily women. I'll probably just stick with women because we're amazing. And I think we always need more exposure to how strong we are and to the trials and tribulations that we go through. And we often go through them silently because that's just who we are. I know it's a blanket statement saying we, but if you're listening and you know who you are, you know who you are. So I recently finished a book and I just kind of grabbed it. I was at the library with my son. We are avid readers. He is currently reading a book. I'm usually reading 3 or 4. Right now it's only 2, but I'm going to go to the library because I just finished this one. So we were at the library, getting ready to check out. I just needed something on the nightstand to read before bed. So I grabbed it. It was cool. It was like they had the little table set up near checkout, and it was like a nature theme. So I'm like, okay, cool. That's fine. Blown away by this woman. Her name is Emma Gatewood, or Grandma Gatewood. And the title of the book is Grandma Gatewood's Walk, the inspiring story of the woman who saved the Appalachian Trail. So feel free to research this at any length if it resonates with you. But I do want to shed a little bit of light, and I'll continue to do this as we move forward with the episodes. I'll give a little of my spiel, which is never that amazing. And, and then tack on a woman that is inspiring, that I find her story, her strength, her resolve to be, how she got through the challenges with a little bit of sweetness. So this Emma Gatewood, in short, she was married young, grew up in a farm or on a farm, I believe in Ohio. And I should have taken notes, but we're going off of memory at this point. She was married young, and he was great until he wasn't, classic great until he wasn't story. She had 11 children with her son. Her first name is Emma, if I didn't mention that. So her first name's Emma Gatewood, and she's married, and they start having children. I think it read 3 months into their marriage, he started abusing her physically. So one of the things that she used to do, one of the tools that she used when he would start hitting her, and it wasn't just a slap, it was really, really, really bad. Broken ribs, as the children got older, they would intercept, really bad. So when she could, she would escape the house and run into the woods and just kind of hang out there until he chilled out. So the last time, the beating was so brutal that he knocked her teeth out and ended up calling the police on her, and the police came and locked her up. So in the jail cell, another police officer that was there, or a deputy or a sheriff, I'm not sure which, knew that a woman of her age, because at this point she's maybe 40 or 50 years old, probably closer to 40, but he knew, teeth knocked out, blood everywhere, face beaten up, that someone else was responsible for this, that it wasn't just her defending herself. This was the first time that she had fought back and defended herself against her husband. So that's why she got locked up. So to be clear, the husband has been abusing her for years. She got fed up and fought back. And it didn't go into detail how she fought back, but it was enough that he warranted calling the police. They came, they locked her up. So, officer at the jail, is observing the situation, and really from an objective point of view. And it's like, there's no way this is, she did not just attack him. So I believe the police officer escorted her back to the house. She collected her things and left. She went to go stay with her mother and wrote to the children. They're a little bit older now, so they can engage in correspondence with their mother, and she's writing to them and keeping up with them. Her and her husband are subtly communicating through these letters with the children to each other. The children are writing, probably with their father's coercion, we really want you to come back, but she knows what'll happen if she does. So she continues to write and genuinely check in on her children, knowing that he will never hurt them. Okay, so I've been in this situation. I remember once I also left the children. It was not for an extended period of time, but you just know if they'll hurt the children or not. I can't quite explain it. If you've been in that situation, you'll understand. She knew he wouldn't hurt the children. So eventually, she files for divorce and is granted the farm. She's given ownership of the farm, and her husband, PC, is ordered to pay, I think, child support or alimony, whatever it is. He's ordered to pay some amount of money each month, and but he is not allowed there. And she begins to rebuild her life. I think there's still a couple of kids that need raising up and moving out, so she does that. And then fast forward, she is 67 years old, and I believe she was in a doctor's office, and she picks up a National Geographic magazine and reads a little article about the Appalachian Trail. And the article boasts that the trail is pretty easy to navigate. There are shelters along the way. It's cleared, so it's obvious where the trail is. So she's like, cool, She doesn't tell her kids what she's going to do. Um, she gets herself together and goes to hike the trail. Now, the first effort ended pretty quickly. I think she broke her eyeglasses so she couldn't see. So park rangers, kind of chuckled at her and collected her and brought her back. And then she attempted it again a year later, brought a second pair of glasses. So she started in Georgia at the trailhead in the South and then hiked all the way up to Maine, 67 years old. She did not have any fancy equipment. She did not have expensive hiking shoes. She wore tennis shoes. She would sleep in a combination of lean-tos, abandoned cabins, the kindness of someone off of the trail, a private residence, someone's porch. But often she would make a pile of leaves and just kind of concoct, whatever little bed she could and get as much sleep as she could. Um, Really, really impressive. So fast forward, she hiked the trail 2 more times, but became an avid spokeswoman for in a quiet way. So she was a spokeswoman in these particular hiking circles. Her first effort on the trail and completion, she was interviewed. There was a lot of press around this. So when they would ask her, what was your experience? She was kind of pissed. She was like, when I read this article, it was presented that it would be very manageable to hike this trail. And she was like, it was a mess. A lot of the time I got turned around because the white blaze, which marks the trail for the Appalachian Trail, the sign marker, she's like, a lot of times that wouldn't even be there. Or if there had been some sort of natural, not disaster, but, a tree down or whatever, she would get rerouted and off track. And excuse me, it wasn't really any fault of her own. So once she kind of brought some awareness to that, things started to happen and it was cleaned up. So the next time she hiked it, she actually did it in less time because it was more approachable, I guess you could say. It was a little more feasible. So the part that I love the most, and it's a great book, it was a New York Times bestseller. If you are on the YouTube channel, I'll hold it up here. The author is Ben Montgomery, just as it sounds, like Montgomery Ward's. And the name of the book is Grandma Gatewood's Walk. Ben Montgomery is the author. So here is the book itself. There's an image of Emma Gatewood on there, and that is pretty much what she wore on the trail. You can see her little shoes. But they end the book with, and I'm not giving anything away, they interview her, and so many times, she was kind of not annoyed, but the repetition of the same questions. The reporters were asking the same questions, the journalists. And one of the main questions she was always asked through the years was why? Why? Especially when she did it a second and third time, because you've already done it. Now, it is described that she was the first woman, but that was not her intention. She was not concerned with being the first. She was not concerned with being famous. She was not concerned with, journalists and fame. Not at all. She was asked why. And she said, because I can. And I feel like there's so much power behind that as a woman, especially in 1955. So here's a woman that has been brutally beaten more times than she can count. Ribs broken, face rearranged, teeth knocked out. She has birthed and raised 11 children and lived on a farm. So if anyone's familiar with actually, firsthand farm work, it's a lot of work. And it's 1955. So modern conveniences and amenities that we have a lot of them were not available. And the freedom to be able to choose to do what you want to do is amazing, especially as a woman. So it was really nice to kind of bring things into perspective, um, to remember how much freedom we actually have today, to remember how many choices we actually have today. So when we kind of get down, maybe looking at a situation that may not be going our way, knowing that you always have a choice. It may not be a choice that you like, but you always have a choice, and leaning on other people that you trust, that you care about, that care about you, sometimes can open up the perspective to those other choices that you may not see. Sometimes when we are stressed, overwhelmed, under a lot of pressure, you can only see one way. But sharing with other people your struggles sometimes can offer a little bit of light into other possibilities and solutions to those problems. So, really good book. Highly recommend it. I don't know what I'm going to read next, but I always read stuff about women anyway because we're amazing. So, I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you again to everyone who has stuck with this episode. And I apologize. I hope everyone has an amazing weekend. I'll release this once I do a little bit of editing. So it's Thursday. So we're coming up on the weekend. That's good for you. It's not bad for me, but it's different for me because I work in a restaurant. So it's my Monday, but I work in a restaurant that is very good to me. So happy to be there. Thank you again for listening, and I hope everyone has an amazing night.